Welcome to one of the most beautiful places on planet Earth. I am in California, wine country, Southern California to be exact. So I'm not in Napa, I'm not in Paso Robles, I am in Temecula. Temecula is this jewel of a neighborhood that is in Southern California. Think of it as about an hour inland from San Diego. There is a small but growing wine community here, and I am fortunate enough to be representing this magnificent estate, which is on 5 acres. It's over 6,000 feet, 7 bedrooms and 6 bathrooms, and this is the most beautiful Spanish villa that I think I've seen. The detail on this place is absolutely incredible. This is another place that I'm representing where the owners are actually the interior designers, and every detail has been thought, pondered, and lovingly executed to make this place really, really magical. It's rare that I have the feeling, oof, I could live here. But when I saw this, I came down and I'm like, oh my God, this is something special. So without further ado, let me show you this fabulous 5-acre estate here in beautiful wine country in Southern California, here in Temecula. This part of Temecula tends to have larger estates. As I mentioned, it's a wine community. It's also an equestrian community. Lots of the owners surrounding this property have horses and other animals because most of the estates are 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 acres. I want to walk you through and point out some of the details of Sandak Road because it's breathtaking. So one of the motifs you're going to see throughout the house are these beautiful arches. So the arches were installed by the current owner, and she took such pride in her work. It's finished in, I've seen a lot of Venetian plaster over the years, but this Venetian plaster, I feel like I could be in Sevilla. I feel like I could be in Tenerife. I feel like I really could be in Spain, or maybe somewhere deep in Mexico, because this is just so on point, the color, the tone, everything. I'm gonna whiz you into the most glorious room, which is the kitchen. Everything here, and I'm not just saying this for camera, this house actually has really touched me. I'm lucky I get to sell a lot of really beautiful homes, but the color combination of this property is something that is unmatched. When I come in, first of all, I have these beautiful mixed size of Israeli limestone on the floor, just simply gorgeous. And then I have a natural stone island, which intentionally is giant sized. These days, the kitchen has always been the heart of the home, but now it's just a place where we all gather, and if you need room anywhere in the house, you need room in the kitchen. This stove is a Loltier from Paris. Think of this as the Rolls Royce of stoves. There is nothing better in the world. I'm going to show you a little bit of the detail. Along the island, we have a rounded edge, but then there is a motif of a square edge embedded into it. Just beautiful. Everything is hidden away. You have soft close, solid oak cabinetry. All of the handles are hand-poured vintage brass, which is my absolute favorite. The hood is industrial grade, yet hidden away behind this beautifully built, made to look European, which is concealed behind stucco in the most perfect manner. Backsplash on point. Of course, we have the filling arm for convenience with pots. Solid brass, unlacquered, just gorgeous. And then one of the details here is, look at the faucets. These are actually vintage brass, and they just give the whole kitchen a patina. The patina on this brass just makes everything kind of come to life for me. Again, impeccable oak cabinetry that was all installed by the seller, and even the plates and the glasses fit the color palette. This, for me, it's a 10 out of 10, ladies and gentlemen. But there's more. As I come over to the breakfast nook, which has just the most stunning travertine round dining table, perfectly proportioned, I sit down and I gaze out onto, I could be staring at Tuscany. The rolling hills of the wine country of Southern California. It really is something to be in awe of. Another thing to mention about the island is, of course, what everyone is doing now, creating enough dining for a whole family. You have 4 very large stools here that all tuck under this natural stone perfectly. This is a quartz, and quartz doesn't mark like marble, so it's, even though it's a natural stone, it is really durable and a beautiful tone with these golden and amber motifs through it. Match perfectly with this custom cabinetry. We have dual fridges here. Again, the handles, I wish you could experience the handles. They are hand poured. And then we have the freezer beneath. And then, of course, ladies and gentlemen, Pete's favorite, the Miele coffee machine. One day I'm gonna, in fact, Miele, why don't you sponsor this channel? I'm gonna send this to you. You never know. You don't ask, you don't get. And then you have this, ladies and gentlemen. The most serene living room. Everything you see is custom. The couch, the furniture, the light fixtures, the rug. Everything in this room is custom. And I'm going to point out a few of my favorite things, other than the decor, which, being a designer, is so on point. So this is a vintage hearth that was imported from Europe. And then the owner, she put this stone around the hearth to give this a European, a Spanish slash, this feels actually very French. And you have a wood burning fire right here, and the hearth is raised, which I love because in the holidays you can just kind of sit here, swap stories, you know, just, it's a great moment to have this here because it'll be freezing outside in Temecula in the winter. Out of all the windows, we get to see across wine country. And then this room is finished out perfectly with yet more beautiful custom oak cabinetry. And then we have the frame TV by Samsung, not sponsored, which in my opinion is the best TV to have because you can flip it into art during the day and it just kind of fades away. It's super flat. And then that is rounded out with a beautiful moment here in the corner with 2 vintage chairs that have been recovered. Beautiful marble duet of occasional tables, just making this room just so on point. So let's now continue into the dining room. We come back. In fact, Manny, just stay there because I want to show the viewers the motif of the arches cascading into each other. It's really such a special moment. And then just off the kitchen, we have a formal dining room. I much prefer a dining room to be in its own space, to make it a formal event. Maybe you've got some VIP guests. Maybe it's a birthday for a senior person. I like the fact that this is a completely separate room to the kitchen and the breakfast nook. You've got seating here for 10. You could easily have seating for more. And of course, we gaze out across our 5-acre property, looking at that magnificent vintage olive tree that was installed when the house was built. I want to show you one other thing. The taste of this homeowner is exquisite. This is a vintage French oak sideboard from the 1800s. This homeowner told me about Round Top in Texas, which is one of the biggest antique fairs in the United States. And because of this piece of furniture, I recently went to Round Top and I bought a bunch of antiques. So thank you very much, Miss Seller. And as I leave the formal dining room behind, I want to show you just one other room before we get into the rest of the house, which is this. This is kind of like the fun room. So it's a bar, it's a family room, it's a games room. You know, this is formidable. This is a full-size commercial-grade bar, the motif of the same quartz stone as we've had in the kitchen. You have all the accoutrement you could ever hope for. You've got the refrigerators, oak cabinetry once again, and then even the faucet in the bar has been thought about and pondered and chosen to be the best possible design, all ending in this circular hammered sink, giving this area just an extra layer of glitter. But I'm not done. Now, I don't drink anymore. If I did, I would have one of these. There is a beer tap installed in this room. Dangerous, but beautiful. And again, vintage brass. As I pivot through this room, once again, I have a wood-burning fireplace, which is framed with this vintage stone. We have another room which has this it's just magnificent. The Venetian plaster throughout the whole property. Every surface is a work of art. And then, of course, all the rooms are framed by these steel casement custom doors and windows. I'm going to go outside a little bit later in the tour. Let me show you the rest of the house. We go back past the formal entry, and I want to show you a detail that the seller did with this house. So this home had a regular banister. It was nice, but it wasn't anything like this. She installed this architectural detail, and again, it has the Venetian plaster, perfectly finished all the way through the entire structure, which is no mean feat. And then she decided to finish the steps in travertine, which is one of my favorite materials on earth. The elegance of every design decision is breathtaking. So let me show you some of the other details that we have on the ground level. We have a laundry room that is like a ballroom. This is everyone's dream, especially mine. This is a giant laundry room, tons of storage, and everything you could want. Ironing boards, drying racks, whole nine. Let me show you the most adorable nursery. So the seller has practically a newborn, and everything in this room is just so darling, especially the light. And it leads out to the backyard here where she can play if she wants to go out. And then, of course, everybody these days works from home. Having an office is crucial. Once again, this office was designed by the owner. An extremely tasteful vintage desk, again French oak from the 1800s. And then she put in this motif of these shelves, which I think are it's just class. Everything about this property is sophistication. And then last but not least, I love the chandelier. I've not seen one like this before. I normally don't like gold leaf. I find it quite blingy. But in this case, the light that it's cascading, my favorite word, cascading into the room, it just makes everything feel luxe. As we leave the office, I want to show you a room that often gets neglected. And that is the powder room, right? The small bathroom in the house is often the last thing people get to. But in this case, no detail has been spared. This sink was custom made. This is, again, in custom plaster. It was framed out. The mirror was custom. Obviously, you've got this oak beading behind. I love, once again, the vintage brass light fixtures. And for a powder room, this is really something special. And because she has a little kid, there's a little diaper place up there. Really nice touches. Now, I'm a parent of 3 kids. Sorry, I got to point something else out. Gorgeous, look at this. I love my antiques. So I love to blend worlds together, and so does this cellar. This is an old vintage piece of furniture, I suspect from Europe. It looks French, and I'm guessing it's about 150 years old. This house is a newer build, it's practically new. And then the juxtaposition of those two worlds living next to each other, I think, is something really, really special. So then this brings us to the owner's suite. And I want to point some things out. I'm going to point more things out than I would normally point out, because the thought that has gone into this is really exceptional. So of course, this is a new house, and this is a new bed, a giant double bed with this curved motif. And then you have the custom oak cabinetry again. But for me, what makes this room magic is blending the old with the new. I have this newer side chair here with this vintage table of 3 occasional tables. Again, this looks really old, probably 60 to 100 years old. And then you have a vintage bowl on top. Blending these worlds together just makes this place magic. We have a discreetly hidden away TV, because we don't want to stare at our TV if we're not watching it. And another great touch is this tapestry, a vintage tapestry hung on the wall. She told me the story of where she got this, and again, this is French, very, very old, but the blending of all of these flavors is exceptional. And then the room is rounded out with this beautiful vintage brass and marble light fixture, which is just to die for. Let me take you into the bathroom. I challenge you to find anything wrong with the whole house. The house is perfect. We have a different stone, natural stone, and you'll notice the whole sink is the stone. It's not an underlaid sink beneath the stone. She went the extra mile and decided to make the sinks out of stone. Vintage brass, custom mirrors, and a bathtub, which again has got the Venetian plaster touch to it, so it works perfectly. Giant steam shower. And then of course, every owner's suite has to have the most magnificent closet. Again, the details, the ladder, the chandelier. I actually have the same chandelier in my house. So this lady's got good taste. Double racks. Everything has been thought out. Everything is soft close. Everything is custom. I'm not going to show you what's in the drawers, but you get the idea. It is magnificent. And now let me take you outside for the piece de la resistance of the bathroom. To my private owner's suite patio, that if I wanted to come out here and sunbathe in my birthday suit, I can do so because no one can see me. And I have a classic vintage fountain just bubbling away, just to make this already idyllic scene just a little bit more serene. All right, let's go take a look at the upper level. So let's explore the upper level as I climb these just incredible travertine steps that take me to the second floor. The chandelier, again, is just beyond perfect. This is huge kind of chunks of quartz that have been delicately lit on the inside. Every detail is just beyond. And to put these turns in is really hard, ladies and gentlemen, to make it look seamless and intentional. It's very, very difficult, so bravo. I love when we arrive on the landing, we're met by another vintage tapestry. It just sets the tone for where the journey's going to go next. So I'm going to start with the most adorable kids' room. This is like a storybook kids' room. Even the crib is round. It is just such perfection. I know when I had babies, my room didn't look anything like this. Again, all the furniture, all of the accoutrement, it just works. Everything is perfect. And then of course, you have a full bath. Everybody knows who has babies. You need a bathtub for your kids. finished out in the same stone as the master. And then I'm going to quickly whiz you through some of the guest rooms. Again, the corridor has this wonderful motif of arches that travel the whole length of the property. We start with guest room number 1, another magnificent chandelier, a beautiful vintage bed, and a full bathroom and closet. And then this I rarely see. So I have just a staggeringly beautiful bedroom. Another flavor, it's a different flavor, gorgeous bed, again some vintage furniture. But what I love about this is, yes, I have my bathroom and my closet, but this is a suite that joins into another bedroom. So if you have a family staying, you can have the kids in this room, you, mum and dad, are in the other room. And then to top it off, I come out into this very special moment where I would have my coffee machine and, you know, little knickknacks. And I would sit outside on the guest porch, sipping away my espresso from this really beautiful and delicate vintage table that looks like it's at least 100 years old. Rarely have I seen, if ever, a house this on point with the design, the flow, how meticulous the seller has been. It really is a joy to be here. I hope it doesn't sell too quickly because I want to come and visit it often during showings. But ladies and gentlemen, there is still a little bit more for me to show you. So last but not least is this outdoor area, which is at the rear of the property, totally private. This could be an epic dining room. It could be the most wonderful outdoor lounge. And I love that it's recapitulated at a right angle down this way, which leads me to this fabulous double-sided fireplace. So I can sit and enjoy the sunsets in the evenings and if I drank a glass of wine. But now let me take you to one of this property's greatest advantages. As you see it behind me, it's just gorgeous, simply gorgeous. I'm not overhyping this, ladies and gentlemen. I absolutely have fallen in love with this house. You know, I said to Cindy when we walked in, I said, "Whoa, we could live here." I think it's just idyllic. It's a little bit far to commute. But who knows, maybe one day. But then let me round out the entire tour with this as I gaze over my 5 acres of property, which are framed by these mountains in Southern California that in the winter you might see a tiny bit of snow on the top because it does get cold because it's wine. Wine likes to be abused. Really hot in the summer, really cold in the winter, gives you great wine. And I could be in Tuscany, I could be in Northern California, I could be in Spain, I could be a multitude of places, but it's weird to think that I'm only 2 hours from Los Angeles and an hour from San Diego. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna step out of the way and I'm gonna let you enjoy the view here in Temecula at this fabulous 5-acre estate that is truly my pleasure to represent. I'll see you later.